The political storm surrounding Donald Trump intensified once again as an explosive chain of events brought new scrutiny on his handling of confidential materials, thrusting him into what many insiders privately describe as a world of hell. The situation escalated after an alleged attempt to conceal files not only failed but apparently backfired in ways that few in his inner circle anticipated. What began as a quiet effort to manage a growing legal crisis has now mushroomed into a sprawling controversy that is dominating political conversation, fueling public debate, and prompting renewed investigations. The fallout is growing by the hour as more insiders come forward and more details seep into the public sphere. According to individuals familiar with the matter, the latest uproar began when investigators uncovered communications suggesting that certain files had either been moved or withheld during a previous round of document requests. These communications, reportedly involving close aides and advisors, triggered immediate suspicion within investigative circles. While the former president has frequently insisted that any disputes regarding document handling are misunderstandings or products of bureaucratic confusion, the emerging narrative is far more complicated and potentially far more damaging. Lawyers who have followed the case closely note that attempts to conceal or relocate documents, if proven, could significantly expand the legal jeopardy Trump already faces. One attorney familiar with federal investigations remarked that this kind of behavior is precisely what prosecutors examine for patterns of intent and obstruction. Even the possibility of such actions can open the door to deeper scrutiny, broader subpoenas, and more aggressive questions from investigators. That is exactly what is now happening as investigators appear to be widening their lens and seeking new testimony from individuals once considered peripheral to the case. Behind closed doors, tension within Trump's circle has reportedly reached a boiling point. Advisors who previously projected confidence are now sounding increasingly anxious as the political and legal implications grow clearer. Some insiders describe frantic meetings, hurried phone calls, and efforts to craft a consistent message designed to counteract the latest revelations. But unity has not been easy to achieve. The former president's team is struggling to reconcile competing accounts, unexpected leaks, and a steady drip of information that seems to contradict earlier public assurances. The situation escalated further when sources indicated that investigators had obtained digital communications from multiple devices belonging to those once thought to be beyond the primary scope of the case. These communications, described by insiders as both surprising and extensive, reportedly revealed conversations about how certain files were being handled and who had knowledge of their movement. While the precise content of these communications remains under seal, the sheer volume and tone of the internal chatter are said to have raised major concerns among investigators. Public reaction to the unfolding drama has been swift and intense. Opponents of the former president argue that the episode demonstrates a broader pattern of evasion and disregard for legal norms. Supporters insist the controversy is exaggerated and politically motivated. Still, even some longtime allies privately concede that the optics are grim and that the timing could not be worse. With election season drawing closer, any renewed attention on Trump's legal challenges threatens to overshadow his messaging and complicate his efforts to regain political momentum. The media environment has reacted predictably, with non-stop coverage dominating cable news segments, digital platforms, and political talk shows. Analysts are dissecting every detail, speculating about possible outcomes, and debating the potential impact on Trump's long-term prospects. Political strategists note that while Trump has weathered countless storms before, this one could prove more complex because it strikes at the heart of an ongoing legal investigation that has already drawn significant resources and attention. Former prosecutors observing the situation say that attempts to hide or withhold files can often be more damaging than the original issue. Similar cases in the past have demonstrated that while mismanagement or accidental retention of documents can be addressed through negotiation or administrative remedies, deliberate concealment dramatically changes the landscape. It speaks directly to intent and raises the stakes considerably. That is the dynamic now unfolding around Trump, and it is why the pressure is mounting so quickly. Within Trump's orbit, some advisors are urging a more cautious approach, encouraging restraint and careful coordination with legal counsel. Others are pushing for an aggressive public offensive, consistent with Trump's long-standing strategy of attacking investigators and framing the situation as yet another example of political touching. This internal divide has become more pronounced as the revelations have intensified, leading to disagreements over messaging, evidence disclosure, and long-term legal strategy. Complicating matters further, new sources have begun to emerge, including individuals who previously declined to speak publicly or cooperate with investigators. Some now appear more willing to share their recollections, perhaps due to subpoena pressure or shifting political loyalties. These accounts reportedly contain details about meetings, conversations, and decisions surrounding document handling. Any corroboration among these accounts could cement a timeline that is deeply unfavorable for Trump's defense. Meanwhile, investigations are broadening in multiple directions. Forensic teams are analyzing data extracted from digital devices. Legal teams are reviewing testimony for inconsistencies. Intelligence analysts are evaluating the sensitivity of the documents involved and whether any mishandling could have created risks beyond the political sphere. While officials have not publicly disclosed whether any materials involved national security vulnerabilities, analysts point out that even the possibility of such exposure could have serious repercussions. Political consequences are already becoming evident. Opponents are seizing on the controversy as fresh ammunition, while even some neutral observers are beginning to question whether the accumulation of legal battles is becoming unsustainable for Trump's political viability. Pollsters note that while Trump retains a fiercely loyal base, undecided voters and moderate independents are especially sensitive to stories involving misconduct, deception, or national security concerns. Each new revelation risks eroding support among those crucial demographics. In public statements so far, Trump has dismissed the allegations as false and fabricated, insisting that the investigation is part of a long-running political campaign against him. He maintains that he has been treated unfairly and that investigators are overreaching. These arguments resonate strongly with his most committed supporters, but do little to alleviate legal pressure. Legal analysts note that public messaging rarely influences investigative outcomes, especially when evidence is being collected and reviewed through official channels with established procedures. The unfolding drama has left many wondering what the next major development will be. Some expect new subpoenas to land in the coming days. Others anticipate that investigators may issue updated reports or request additional cooperation from individuals in Trump's circle. There is also speculation that prosecutors may consider whether obstruction-based charges or recommendations are warranted depending on what the digital communications ultimately reveal. Such outcomes remain speculative, but the possibility alone has heightened the tension around the investigation. The broader political landscape continues to shift as well. Rival campaigns are increasingly incorporating the scandal into their messaging, casting Trump as reckless or unpredictable. Talk show hosts and commentators are amplifying these themes, while editorial boards weigh in with assessments that range from sharply critical to cautiously analytical. The result is a media environment saturated with coverage of the controversy, making it nearly impossible for Trump or his advisors to change the subject. Observers who have followed Trump's career for years note that he has often thrived in chaos, using controversy to energize supporters and dominate public conversation. But this moment feels different to some analysts. The accumulation of legal risk and political uncertainty is creating an atmosphere that is less easily controlled. The revelation that attempts to hide files may have occurred has struck a nerve because it implies a level of intent that transforms the narrative into something more serious than bureaucratic confusion or political misunderstanding. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, legal teams are reviewing every possible avenue of defense. They are assessing communications, preparing statements, examining timelines, and anticipating possible prosecutorial moves. The work is intensive and urgent. Lawyers understand that missteps at this stage could carry enormous consequences. They also understand that the public component of the crisis requires its own strategy, balancing legal caution with media expectations and political realities. As the controversy deepens, questions about accountability and transparency grow louder. Critics argue that attempts to hide files, if proven, represent a fundamental breach of public trust. They see the incident as part of a pattern that demands serious consequence. Others warn that the political climate is too polarized for any meaningful accountability, predicting that each side will interpret the situation in ways that reinforce their existing views. This polarization complicates the path toward resolution and ensures that the controversy will remain a dominant topic for the foreseeable future. What happens next largely depends on the pace at which investigators move and the extent of cooperation they receive. If additional communications or testimony confirm suspicions about concealment, the legal and political ramifications could be severe. If the evidence turns out to be less conclusive than early reports suggest, some of the political pressure may ease. But the damage from the initial revelations has already been done, and Trump now faces yet another uphill battle as he attempts to regain control of the narrative. As the hours pass, the situation continues to evolve, with new fragments of information emerging and new voices entering the conversation. Trump's opponents are intensifying their attacks. His allies are working overtime to counter the narrative. Investigators are methodically piecing together a timeline that could determine the next phase of the legal proceedings. And the public, once again, is watching closely as a familiar but increasingly complex political drama unfolds at the center of national attention. The attempt to hide files, whether fully proven or not, has created a firestorm that is unlikely to dissipate soon. It has reignited debates about accountability, transparency, and the responsibilities of leaders. It has introduced new complications into Trump's political future and added yet another chapter to a long-running saga of conflict between the former president and the institutions tasked with upholding the rule of law. With every passing day, the stakes grow higher, the scrutiny grows sharper, and Trump finds himself navigating a landscape filled with danger, uncertainty, and intensifying pressure. In many ways, this is the most challenging moment yet in a series of battles that